Logan. Are we good? We good?
Okay. All right. I was doing 1, 2. I was doing 1, 2, 3, 4.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Mobile City Planning Commission meeting for March 20th. I'd also like to welcome spring as we are at the first day of spring. Also welcome to those who are here also looking at their phones for March Madness. I would like to take a moment to review our general operating procedures. This meeting is divided into 2 sessions, public hearing, and then we get into deliberation. During the public hearing session, an agenda item will be called. An applicant makes their presentation. Commission members ask questions, if any, and then members of the public make their comments to the commission. A reminder that only 4 people can speak for an agenda item and 4 people against. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes, subject to questions by the commissioners. And at 1 minute remaining, a speaker will hear a warning bell or beep prompting you to please summarize your comments. After an opposition speaker has finished, an applicant will be allowed a 2-minute rebuttal. If you do intend to speak, come to the podium at the bottom of the stairs. Please speak into the microphone clearly and provide your name and address for the record. Direct all your comments to the commission only and not to the applicant, the staff, or the audience. After hearing all the applications, we then go into deliberation where we will discuss each application with input from the staff as necessary, but without any input from the audience. We will then vote on each application, and the results of that voting can be learned from the planning department. If issues arise during deliberation that were not addressed in public hearing, we have the discretion to allow additional comments pertaining to those in order to resolve them, or call for the application to be held over for discussion at a future meeting. Occasionally, a commissioner may recuse themselves from discussing and voting on a given application. That does not mean that they are directly involved with the application or the applicant, but depending on the circumstances, ethical rules may require a recusal, even if there is only the slightest appearance of a conflict of interest. If a regular member recuses, a supernumerary will vote in their stead. A reminder that the Planning Commission makes final decisions on subdivisions with appeals of those to the Circuit Court. The Planning Commission is a recommending body for rezonings, conditional use permits, and planned developments. The City Council makes the final decision on these applications, and all appeals of the City Council are to the Circuit Court. At this time, please do us a favor and turn your cell phones to silent or vibrate. Any other electronic devices, do the same. Commissioners and staff, please turn on your microphones when speaking. I'll go ahead and call the roll. Myself, Jay Stubbs, present. Mr. Kirk Matei. Ms. Jennifer Denson. Mr. Harry Brislin. Mr. Larry Dorsey. Mr. Chad Anderson. Mr. Matt Anderson. Here. Mr. Nick Amberger.
Here.
Mr. Josh Woods.
Here.
Mr. Kenny Nichols.
Here.
And our newly installed Miss Ellie Edwards.
Here.
We do have a quorum for today's agenda. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion for the agenda passes. We will move straight into the holdover from last meeting. This is number 1 at 2411 Venetia Road. It's a conditional use permit approval to allow a short-term rental in an R1 single-family residential suburban district. Reminder to commissioners, there are potentially 11 findings of fact and 2 conditions. Is the applicant for the rezone present? Do you have any comments or questions towards this, ma'am? If you don't and you're good to go, just remain here in case anybody does have anything. I'll ask if there's anyone else in the audience that is here for number 1, a rezone at 2411 Venetia Road for short-term rental in an R1. Anyone to speak for it or against it? All right, seeing none, we will move on to number 2. Well, I'll ask if any questions or comments from commissioners. This agenda item was here last month, but we do have.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
We have everything. We're as far as staff's concerned, we can move forward with this. I know last month, we were waiting on since this is our first short-term rental. We have everything we need to move forward without making anything else a condition per se of
Oh yeah, that supplies everything we need.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you all.
All right, thank you. All right, new agenda items, starting on number 2. This is a subdivision at the south side of River Forest Road and south of Alba Club Road in the Oak Bend subdivision. It's a subdivision of one lot at 3 1/4 acres. There are 9 conditions listed. Is the applicant present? The applicant is present. By show of hand, are you in agreement with the 9 conditions that are listed? Waving of hand and in agreement. I'll ask if there's anyone else in the audience that is here to speak for this agenda item at south side of River Forest Road and Alba Club Road. Is there anyone here to speak against it? Seeing none, we will move on to number 3. This is a subdivision at 812 Edwards Avenue, the McConnell addition to Edwards Avenue subdivision, one lot at 0.08 acres. There are 8 conditions as part of this application. Is this applicant present? The applicant is present. With a show of hand, are you in agreement with the 8 listed conditions? We got a thumbs up from the applicant. Is there anyone else in the audience that is here to speak for this subdivision at 812 Edwards Avenue? Is there anyone here to speak against it? All right, seeing none, we'll continue on to number 4 on the agenda. A subdivision of one lot at just over half an acre at 2729 Reeves Street and 2728 Betby Street, the Millville Division A re-subdivision of several lots listed. There are 9 conditions on this application. Is the applicant present? The applicant is present. By show of hand, are you in agreement with those 9 conditions? Got a nod of a head and in agreement. I'll ask if there's anyone else in the audience that is here for this application item at 2729 Reeves and 2728 Betby's. Anyone here to speak for it? Anyone here to speak against it? Moving right along to number 5. This is a subdivision of 2 lots at 2.84 acres. Location is 575 Cody Road North and 7115 and 7163 Sellers Lane, the Council of Friendship Baptist Church subdivision. There are 9 conditions listed on this application. Is the applicant present? Applicant is present. Are we in agreement with the 9? Applicant is in agreement with those 9 conditions. I'll ask if there's anyone else in the audience that has questions about the subdivision at 575 Cody Road North and Sellers Lane. Anyone to speak for it? Anyone to speak against it? All right, seeing none, we'll continue on. This is number 6 on the agenda. This is a subdivision of 2 lots at 0.44 acres. This is at 106 and 160 North Jackson Street, the G5 parking subdivision, first edition. There are 10 conditions listed with this subdivision application. Is this applicant present? Applicant is present with show of hand and is in agreement with the 10 listed conditions. I'll ask if there's anyone in the audience that is here to speak for this agenda item. Anyone here to speak against it? All right, number 7 on the agenda. This is a subdivision of 2 lots at 12.5 acres. This is at 1854 East I-65 Service Road North, Patterson Place subdivision, phase 2. Is the applicant present? Applicant's present. Are you in agreement with the 10 listed conditions? Nod of a head. He is in agreement. Is there anyone else in the audience that is here for this agenda item at 1854 East I-65 Service Road North? Here to speak for it? Anyone here to speak against it? Seeing none, we will go to number 8. Number 8 on the agenda is a subdivision of 7 lots at 0.36 acres. The location is 253 North Warren Street, extending to the south side of State Street, 63 feet east of North Dearborn Street, extending to the northeast corner of State Street and North Dearborn Street. The Carroll Elks subdivision. There are 12 conditions listed. Is the applicant present? The applicant is present. Are you in agreement with those 12 listed conditions? He is so. I'll ask if there's anyone in the audience to speak for agenda item number 8 at 253 North Warren Street. Anyone here to speak against it? Seeing none, we'll move on. We have a little change in the agenda. Number 9, we have a modification. This is a major modification of a previously approved PUD, planned unit development, allowing shared access and parking between multiple building sites. This is at 3674 and 3680 Dolphin Street. For commissioners, there's potentially 8 findings of fact and 11 conditions. Is the applicant for this modification present? Applicant is present with show of hand. Are you in agreement with the conditions to the findings of fact if moved forward and the 11 conditions to the application? The applicant is in agreement and nodding of head. I'll ask if there's anyone in the audience that has questions for this application item at Dolphin Street, 3674, 3680. Anyone here to speak for it? Anyone here to speak against it? Moving right along, we will move into number 10 on the agenda. This is a rezone at 2415 St. Stephen's Road, a rezoning of a single-family residential R1 to a neighborhood business urban district B2. So an R1 to a B2. For commissioners, there's potentially 7 findings of fact and 2 conditions listed. Is the applicant for this rezone present? The applicant is present with a show of hand in the back. Are you in agreement with the or understanding of the findings of fact? Yes, you can please come on down. Take your time. And then 2 conditions that are listed. And a reminder to please state your name and address for the record clearly into the microphone. You may have to bring it down a little bit.
My name is Angie A.G. and 2415 St. Stephen's Road. And I was looking over the comments that each one of you, the urban forestry, the fire department, the planning committee, and the engineering, I had sent in my reply to each one of you. I don't know did you receive it or not.
So you sent in questions for each of those under
More
the
like
compliance with?
More like a reply to their comment.
Okay.
For the engineering, the right-of-way will not be disturbed and everything will remain the same, the physical condition of the land. So I don't have to change nothing on the land. And for traffic, the parking for the site is spacious enough for 5 vehicles in the front. And the driveway to the back of the site is for handicap and teacher parking. There is no need for a 2-way traffic. The traffic will not be all at the property at one time. And for urban forestry, not planning on removing any trees. Trees are a very good source of shade for the kids. And the fire department. The Mobile Fire and Rescue Department in Thomasville is like 2 minutes away from the site. And the planning, the surveyor, Jane Rodriguez, is a professional surveyor, and there will be a total of 5 teachers. The total square footage of the building is 2,044. The curved cut is located in front of the site. It's from property line to property line. All that is open for parking. And the parking is more than enough to allow parking in the front of the site and the back of the site. I am not planning on planting any trees on the site. There are hedges and privacy fences around the back and side of the property. And on the front left side is hedged with concrete poles that travels to the back to the privacy fence. And on the right side, there are hedges planted already. I will do whatever it is that I need to do to get this rezoned.
Thank you, Ms. Agee. As long as you are in agreement with those conditions that each of those departments listed out, and it sounds like you are, and then full compliance with municipal codes, and unless there's any comments or questions from commissioners once we get into deliberation, just stand by in case there are. then we'll know at the end of this meeting what the rezone application would result in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Agee. I'll now ask if there's anyone else in the audience who is here to speak for this application at 2415 St. Stephen's Road. Is there anyone here to speak against it? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the final agenda item for public hearing. This is a rezone application at 4421 Government Boulevard. This is a rezone from single-family residential suburban, or R1, to community business suburban, B3. For commissioners, there's potentially 7 findings of fact, and for the applicant, there would be 2 conditions. Is the applicant present? The applicant is present with a show of his hand. Or would you be in agreement with the 2 conditions? And do you have any questions regarding the findings of fact? And the in agreement, and answer is no to note any questions on the findings of fact. I'll ask if there's anyone else in the audience that's here for the rezone application at 4421 Government Boulevard. Anyone here to speak against it? Okay. Seeing none, we will now close our public hearing session, and we will go back to number 1 on the agenda. This is a holdover from previous meeting, rezone application, short-term rental in an R1 at 2411 Venetia Road. The applicant is present, did not have any questions regarding findings of fact, and would be in agreement of conditions for the conditional use permit request. Any comments or questions from commissioners?
Move to approve subject to staff recommendation with findings of fact 1 through 10.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded with findings of fact 1 through 10. Any questions or comments from commissioners? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion for the rezone short-term rental passes. Number 2, subdivision at the south side of River Forest Road and south of Alba Club Road. The applicant is present and in agreement with the 9 listed conditions. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion for subdivision passes. Number 3, subdivision at 812 Edwards Avenue. The applicant is present and in agreement with the 8 listed conditions. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion for subdivision passes. Number 4, 2729 Reeves Street, 2728 Betby Street. The applicant is present and in agreement with the 9 listed conditions. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion for subdivision passes. Number 5, 575 Cody Road North and 7115, 7163 Sellers Lane. The applicant is present and was in agreement with the 9 listed conditions. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion for subdivision passes. Number 6, subdivision of 2 lots at 106 and 160 North Jackson Street. The applicant is present and in agreement with the 10 listed conditions. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion for subdivision passes. Number 7, 1854 East I-65 Service Road North. The applicant is present and in agreement with the 10 listed conditions. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion for subdivision passes. Number 8. It's a subdivision at 253 North Warren Street. 7 lots, just over 1/3 of an acre. The applicant was present and was in agreement with the 12 listed conditions. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion for subdivision passes. Number 9. This is a modification of a previously approved PUD allowing shared access and parking between multiple building sites. Reminder of 8 findings of facts potentially. The applicant was present, did not have any question, and was in agreement with the 11 listed conditions. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendations, adopting findings of facts A through H.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded with findings of fact A through H. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion for modification passes. Number 10, rezone application at 2415 St. Stephen's Road, rezoning from R1 to B2, potentially 7 findings of fact, 2 listed conditions. The applicant is present and made comments towards commission questions, or I should say compliance questions, and did not have any issues. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendations, adopting findings of facts C, D, and E.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded with findings of fact C, D, and E. Any questions or comments from commissioners? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion for rezone from R1 to B2 passes. Number 11, 4421 Government Street, a rezone from R1 to B3. Potentially 7 findings of fact and 2 listed conditions. Applicant is present with a nod of the head earlier and was in agreement, didn't have any questions or issues. Entertain a motion.
Move to,
Go ahead.
move to approve, based on staff recommendations, adopting findings of facts A, C, D, E, and G.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded with findings of fact A, C, D, E, and G. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
And just number one, thank you. I guess the initial question, the initial for this is the plan is to tear down the old motel. This be an added storage area for the business related to it. Okay. Do want to say thank you. I know, especially from District 4, this property has been an issue over the years, and with problems that are out there. Thank you for that, and look forward to seeing what you do with it. Thank you.
We have a motion and it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion for rezone passes. That concludes the agenda portion of our meeting today. We do have other business. We have minutes from the Planning Commission meetings of September 1 and 15 of 2022, and then October 6 and October 20 of 2022.
Motion to approve.
We'll blanket those. We have a motion to approve. Need a second? Properly moved and seconded on those minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and the minutes from the fall of 2022 are now approved. We have public hearings. Public hearings on parking and load. This is pertaining to amendments to the UDC. Parking and loading, neighborhood meetings, recording and record keeping, minor and major modifications, terminating a PUD, and definitions. I will now see if staff has any comments or questions, or if they want to report on any comments or questions that may have come in from the community. I'll also make sure that each of the commissioners have a chance to read through those amendments to those articles of the UDC.
I can quickly go through these amendments with you guys if you all would like. The first one is amendments to the parking and loading. When we updated the UDC, the previous zoning ordinance had an item in there that would allow certain areas be exempt, and that was not included in the new UDC for parking. And so we are just adding that into the current UDC. Do you have any questions about parking and loading?
Any questions from commissioners on that amendment?
Okay. The next one is neighborhood meetings. And so this is just a way for us to, section 64-5-4C2. This is just a way for us to ensure that the council representative as well as the planning and zoning department is included notification. And so there's an addition of a subparagraph requiring that notification. And then section 64-5-4D, that is just to ensure that the meeting is held at a proper time. And so we're adding a time frame with that. It has to be held between 8 and 5 to ensure that you can't just hold it at 4 and then close before people get off work. The length of that, we're establishing that the meeting has to be open for at least an hour to give people the opportunity to come and hear what's going on. And the location, we're establishing that location has to be within a mile of the area or the proposed site.
What's the minimum length of time for the meeting?
So the minimum length of time, as it stands now, there isn't one.
Right.
And the proposal is for at least 1 hour.
An hour? Well, you know, there have been several that my clients have been involved in, and nobody shows up. I mean, making somebody sit there for an hour, I'm not sure, but I'll leave that up to y'all.
Well,
But we've also had the opposite where meetings have been held in 15 minutes, the applicants close shop. And so folks aren't given the opportunity to come and participate. So
Yeah, and that, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
That's been my feedback is the fact that, you know, a lot of times there is no time frame. It's advertised, but I mean, there's nothing to say it. I know in one instance that I've expressed concern about, off of Cottage Hill Road, the community meeting was held at South Alabama on a basketball game day, in a small room somewhere. And, they basically said, well, we showed up. And I had about 15 people say, well, we showed up, didn't know where to go. So I think this is an excellent change. I think it you know, allows for a certain amount of time. If they're seeking a rezoning, if they're having a public meeting, I think to inconvenience them for an hour so that residents could come and speak about something, I think that's the least that that the city of Mobile can do.
I withdraw my comment.
I get email after
I didn't know people were doing that, and I can't imagine a developer trying to get away with that. I'm glad. Thank you.
You can't imagine it?
Never.
Oh, yeah. Oh, your clients, yeah, they're good. Your clients are good.
Any, Mr. Byrd, any questions or comments towards that? I know you were commenting earlier on the time, but
Yeah, I thought city council didn't need to be involved. Bert said that's as far as like make modification of, I guess they have to be involved with the elimination of,
we hadn't gotten to that one yet.
Yeah.
I was asking you about the neighborhood meetings.
the length of meeting.
We can just add it to your billable hours.
Yeah. I've sat with no one there for 45 minutes. It's boring. I mean, you can, they can get off. I mean, Joshua's last meeting that I was at, it was called for at 4:15. There were 60 people in there at 4:15. I mean, they could get there if they want to get there. Like I said, 45 minutes ought to be the max time of holding the meeting, or minimum time, excuse me.
Any further questions or comments under the neighborhood meetings section of the amendments?
No, I think staff did a good job of this. When the other one was the location, and that's come up before. I mean, all these, I think y'all did a great job. Reading through these, I remember all these little issues coming up in the last year or two. So no, I think all this seems reasonable.
Staff, any further, you want to continue to summarize record and record keeping?
Yeah, we can keep going. So yeah, record keeping. This is just to, you know, we had a few people that would end up going to probate, and probate would tell them they needed more, and they'd go probate back and forth a few times. And so this is just to ensure they submit it to us, and we review it and tell them exactly what they have is good, or what they have is they need more to keep them from going back and forth. So it's more of a assistance to the customer in this record keeping.
Minor and major modifications?
So there has been some questions about what exactly is a minor change in a PUD, and so this just lays out groundwork for what is a minor change, so that A, the developer can know, but B, planning and zoning can have a firm understanding of what classifies as that, so that we can not muddy the waters as much.
Mr. Chair, I have a comment. I guess this is both from a commission standpoint, and then I'm not going to get up and speak on my individual behalf from there, so I'll just say from here. I mean, I guess I see the kind of the footnote here of the determination of whether proposed modification is a minor change is subject to criteria above and the sole discretion of the director. You know, I don't know. This is just my opinion. I would almost like to see some language where, you know, minor changes are, you know, include these but are not limited to. Personally, I'd like to see staff have a little bit more latitude with the ability to determine what's a minor and major change. And I know a lot of it, you know, because sometimes minor things do come up and, you know, there's questions about it. And then I know we had a question at the last commission meeting with, you know, just moving an internal lot line, and there was some confusion as to whether or not that was considered a major or minor change. So, you know, I don't know if it's possible, and I'm not trying to overcomplicate anything, but I just personally would like to see, you know, some language could be added to give staff a little bit more, you know, latitude on these minor modifications.
Well, if you look at B1, it says landscaping, tree planting, building elevation, building materials, parking lot design, screening, fences, walls, building location, or similar elements of site or building design may be allowed subject to administrative approval. So that's pretty, I mean, that's pretty broad, because it's or similar elements is pretty broad in my opinion.
All right. The next one is terminating a planned unit development. I think that one's very welcome.
Yeah, so just establishing language for terminating planned unit development.
Yep.
The way it is. So in that, we had to add everything else that's in previous sections, way to follow your appeal, and how the recording and the record keeping and all that stuff is established inside of the plan. And so we just had to recreate the wheel, in essence, of how something else is removed or added, and the time in which you have to put that out for the public to see and things on those lines.
I have another comment on this one. I see here it almost looks like there was a red line, if you will, stipulating that to initiate an application to terminate a PUD in case of multiple owners, termination requires the consent of all owners. And I know that there was a discussion at a meeting a couple months ago about, you know, kind of one underlying property owner and the inability to get in touch with a property owner who owned a piece of property subject to the PUD. And, you know, from like a retail development standpoint, a lot of times, you know, if you've got multiple out parcels or they're, you know, sold to investors and these people are, you know, nowhere to be found, or they're in kids' trust or other things. I mean, I guess what was the basis for the red line? Because I know there was some discussion at a previous meeting of, you know, if you basically exhaust all your means to contact somebody and you can't get in touch with them, you know, then are you either stuck in the mud, or if an applicant or somebody wants to terminate one proves they just can't get in touch with, you know, one owner.
It's really a property rights issue. If you buy a piece of property that's in a PUD with conditions and you're relying on those conditions, somebody shouldn't be able to take it away from you without your consent. And that's my view on it. The staff might have additional, but it creates a legal issue if you terminate it. It could possibly create a legal issue if you terminate it without their consent. It's a pain, I know. That's why I'm glad we don't have PUDs anymore.
Right.
Any other ones on terminating PUD? And then lastly, a definition changing lot of record to change from 1952 to March 8, 1962. I'll ask Doug for your opinion. Do we want to take each of these separately and vote, or do we want to take them by article? Because we have two articles, Article 3 and Article 5.
Take them by article.
By article?
Yeah.
All right, having given the public hearing, there's no other additional comments from the public. We will take them by article. Parking and loading is Article 3, and then the remainder of the amendments would be in Article 5. Entertain a motion for Article 3.
We've got actually, Article 8, the last one.
Oh, my bad. Article 3, then Article 5, then Article 8. So we'll take them in three separate motions.
So I have a quick question. This is probably clerical in nature. Is our motion to recommend approval to the city council, or are we? Okay, great. I would recommend approval of the amendment to Article 3 regarding parking and loading.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to amend Article 3 passes. Article 5, inclusive of neighborhood meetings, 2 amendments. Recording and record keeping, 1 amendment. Minor and major modification, 2 amendments. And terminating a PUD, 1 amendment. All under Article 5. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion for amendment passes. And then under Article 8, the definition, a lot of record to change 1952 to March 8, 1962. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion for that amendment passes. Not listed on the other business item was a call for a public hearing next month, April 17th, 2025, for adding Article 15 of the Historic Avenue Overlay Proposed Amendment to the UDC. Comments from staff regarding that addition?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In keeping with the council and mayor's commitment to enhance affordable housing, attainable housing opportunities in the area, this particular overlay was drafted as a way to initiate our efforts to focus on that particular initiative. So the Historic Avenue Overlay consists of 3 primarily residential, well-established neighborhoods, the Campground, Lafayette Heights, and the Bottom, no S. These neighborhoods are facing challenges maintaining the residential fabric of their community, as well as obstacles to residential reinvestment. The overlay will connect these neighborhoods and extends eastward to Broad Street in response to the concerns by allowing flexible housing options and development standards within the overlay's defined area. Some specific options that will be included within the overlay are accessory dwelling units, cottage courts, duplex, triplex, and attached townhomes, as well as the ability to reconstruct a dwelling on a historical footprint to maintain the traditional pattern of development. So the request is to move forward with a call for public hearing, and the date would be April 17th, 2025.
So moved.
Properly moved and seconded for public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Is there any other business? All right, again, we will welcome our new planning commissioner, Ms. Ellie Edwards. Congratulations.
I was talking to Ellie at church this past Sunday, and she asked me, how long do these meetings last? And I said, well, could be 20 minutes, could be 2 hours. You never know. This is a good starter.
It was a good starter. All right, everyone, enjoy the rest of your